UFC Atlantic City just took place, and today, guys, we're going to go through pretty much the entire card. There are some fights like, Reese McKee that is not worth talking about, in my opinion, but we're going to be talking about every fight on the card. We're going to be talking about the betting recap. If you're here for a particular fight or particular part of the video, timestamps will be there if you'd like to skip to any part of the video. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels. Let's get right into it with the betting recap. And let me tell you guys, I will want to talk about one bet in particular because I have been talking about all week. A single bet, 1 unit on Bruno Silva to win. This, in my opinion, was lock of the year, and it lost. It was a weird fight. We're going to expand more about it as we go on, but this is what we had to say, okay? I will be uploading a video today explaining my picks and confidence levels. I suggest watching that as well. Thank you very much for your continued support. And when posting about these bets, what I was talking about is I don't think you should just tail because all of the bets that I placed under 0.25 units, I was essentially playing with my money and I really, really liked the chances for the odds. So those were not confident bets, and I understand that if you're watching this for the first time, it's easy to say like, oh yeah, it's nice to say that right now, but honestly, the proof is in the videos. I've been talking about that. Wasn't too confident in those bets, but I did love the value. For example, I loved Pacheco's value in there, and I thought that if that fight was going to continue, if he didn't roll his ankle, he possibly could have won that fight. So, all my 1 unit bets though. All my 1 unit bets. By the way, I still thought that Nate Landwehr and Bill Algeo, both those fights would have went over a round and a half, which is crazy to me how much they were slugging at each other, but not with Nate Landwehr. But if anybody got knocked out, I thought it was going to be Nate Landwehr. But again, we're going to talk about it. So I had 4 1-unit bets, which one of them had the odds crushed a little bit because Victoria Dudikova pulled out, but that would have hit, man. That would have hit. That was 100%. So throughout the week, I was like, guys, this is a shoo-in. This is the best card in a while for betting. And then, of course, MMA does what MMA does. So I had a single bet on Nursulton Ruziboev to win. That was a shoo-in in my opinion. That was just as confident as Bruno Silva. And Sedriques Dumas losing was a long time coming. And thank God I got that at decent odds. Bruno Silva to win. Bruno Silva lost the fight. Unbelievable. He showed up looking a little bit like Vicente Luque, and he let an old Chris Weidman beat him. I understand there was controversy for the stoppage. I personally think it should have been a no contest, but there is truth to what Chris Weidman was saying. You can't just go, and then cover up, you know? You can't do that. That was just a weird fight in general. And the only one, guys, that, you know what? I'm sticking with my picks here, by the way. I'm sticking with these picks. Like, Bruno Silva was an excellent bet, but I missed the mark on Aaron Blanchfield. For everybody, or not everybody, there was a lot of people talking about how overhyped Aaron Blanchfield was. I thought that man of Fiorot was actually overhyped, and that was what I was talking about. Is I think Erin Blanchfield's going to be champion. I think she's going to beat both Shevchenko and both Shevchenko and Grasso, and I still do kind of think that, but perhaps I was just underrating Fiorot like crazy. The matchup made sense, and honestly, when they went in for the weigh-ins and the face-offs, I was like, ooh, okay. Then I was getting a little bit worried about my bet there, but I still thought Erin Blanchfield would pull off the win. She walked into punches for 5 rounds. That was a horrible call in my opinion. But Bruno Silva should have absolutely hit, and I can't believe that we ended up losing money on that one. But of course, we ended up being saved by the 2 other 1-unit bets, which is okay. But plus Joaquin Buckley got that at fantastic odds. I thought about putting more on Joaquin Buckley, but Vicente Luque is a great fighter. So very odd week. If you're interested in seeing my picks, guys, I'll be uploading a members only video and just posting on the YouTube community tab just like this for members only, but I suggest that you watch that video. If you are interested, check out the membership. It is very cheap compared to other channels. It's in the pinned comment description down below, or you can find it next to the subscribe button. Thank you so much for your continued support, everybody. We're going to get them. We're going to get them. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be an absolute blast. There actually is a lot of value to be had next week. But anyways, let's talk about the card. And I want to talk about Caolan Loughran versus Angel Pacheco. This was a very interesting fight. And the reason why I actually ended up throwing a little bit of money on Angel Pacheco is because this dude is seemingly unfinishable. This dude is tough. You saw his fight in the Contender Series. I understood that there probably was going to be a little bit of a skill gap difference, but Angel never stopped stalking him, never stopped moving forward, got hit with a lot of shots in the process, and needs to work on the wrestling a little bit. But at the end of the day, if he didn't roll his ankle in the 3rd round, I think there was a good shot that he would have finished that fight. I thought he was looking good. I think he's a very fun fighter to watch. And honestly, I hope that the UFC continues to give him some decent shots. And Caolan Loughran, he kind of looked as expected, to be honest. There's nothing really too surprising about there. What I really don't like is, and this isn't anything new, but he fights with his chin just in the sky, man. He's going to get clipped one of these days, and it's going to be really, really bad. But Angel Pacheco is still an absolute blast to watch. That was a really fun fight, in my opinion. Right? Great fight to open up the card. Next up, I want to talk about Jacob Malkoun versus Andre Petroski in the first really, really weird part of the night, unless you want to consider Angel Pacheco actually rolling his ankle. But not a lot of people actually, like, really talked about that, noticed that, cared about that. Doesn't really matter. Malkoun actually came out, and I thought Malkoun was going to win, but Malkoun came out with a mission to prove. You know when you could just, like, feel some of those guys are kind of, like, feeling themselves. They're on the ball. They're ready to go. Malkoun came out like a tank, wanted to overwhelm Petroski, and he did a very good job doing so for the first little bit of the fight. And this was kind of, up until the finish happened, everything I was hoping for in the fight. This was a very, very good matchup. The UFC did a great job matching these two up. And the elephant in the room, Andre Petroski, seemingly got knocked out by a hip. I still don't know if that's the case because it was so weird. He went for a takedown, then all of a sudden, like, and then he fell over, and Malkoun ended up finishing the fight. Something I do like, by the way, is Malkoun just blasted a soccer kick to the ribs. I think more people need to do that, especially when their opponents go down. I think they need to work the body when their opponent's on the ground. I don't know why people don't do that, but Malkoun looked like a killer. It's just unlucky for Andre Petroski, but at the end of the day, I actually do think that Jacob Malkoun was on his way to winning this fight. Next up, Nate Landwehr versus Jamall Emmers. Guys, if anybody was going to get knocked out, I thought it was going to be Nate Landwehr. I knew he was tough, and this is why I was throwing a little bit of money on over 1.5 rounds, is because I didn't think that Nate was going to finish Jamall Emmers. Nate doesn't knock anybody out, and Jamall Emmers, while he can get the KO, Nate Landwehr is as tough as a dog. So exactly what happened, Nate Landwehr was like, you know, whoop my ass, see what happens, and then that happened. He ended up knocking out Jamall Emmers. That was a crazy, crazy call. I want to know if anybody happened to pick up Nate Landwehr by KO, because that is ridiculous. This card's so weird for betting, dude. But man, I'm happy Nate the Train is back on the winning column, and I can't wait to see him. And who did he call out? Crap. Oh no, he got called out. He got called out by Kyle Nelson. That would actually be a pretty fun fight in my opinion. But it was fun while it lasted. Jamall Emmers was whooping him as expected. And I was like, oh man, I was really upset because I like Nate the Train a lot. I like Jamall Emmers as well, but I like Nate the Train. And I was telling my dad, I was watching with my family. He came out and I was like, oh man, Nate the Train's going to get starched. I could just feel it. And then when the fight started, Jamall started whooping him. And then my dad's like, oh, looks like you're right. See you later, Nate the Train. He doesn't care about Nate at all. And then Nate just clipped him. I was like, oh, that was crazy. What a crazy, crazy card, man. Now, reality has kind of been restored when Ruziboev took on Sedriques Dumas. I'm done trying to pronounce Nursulton. I don't know how to say that. Regardless, Sedriques Dumas isn't good. It was a long time coming. I can't believe he won his last two fights, and he lost his fight. There was an eye poke here, too, but there was no other outcome that was going to happen. So, honestly, I'm not looking too much into that. Ruziboev does look like a killer, though. He was using counters fantastically. He was very patient, very powerful, very imposing in there. And I know it's really, really early to say, but he could be a problem for the middleweight division. I'm definitely keeping my eye on him. Now for the biggest fight. Chris Weidman, Bruno Silva. I can't believe I lost money on this fight. I cannot believe I lost money on this fight. Chris Weidman can't fight anymore. He came in and he wanted to hold Bruno Silva. He came in checking leg kicks that weren't there, having the PTSD, as Michael Bisping was saying. And I'm not saying, like, I don't mean to trash Chris Weidman. Like I talked about in the video beforehand, Chris Weidman is one of my favorite fighters of all time. I love Chris Weidman. He can't do it anymore. Bruno Silva came out there kind of like Vicente Luque. Just inactive, walking forward, having these horrible blitzes. And I know Bruno Silva isn't like the top of the division or anything, but he's certainly a step above your bottom of the barrel middleweights. I don't understand what was happening here. I don't know. I don't know. He came in, he let Chris Weidman grab him, he let Chris Weidman control him, he let Chris Weidman just knee him, and he wasn't doing anything. And I know Chris Weidman poked him a bunch of times in the middle of the fight, and that stoppage was ridiculous in my opinion, but Chris Weidman actually had a point to what he was saying. You can't just go, oh, and then fall down. You can't do that. What's the ref going to do? But what should be happening is when the eye pokes are that clear, when the foul is that bad and that clear, a double eye poke, it was like boom, boom, and then Bruno Silva went down. That should be a no contest. Absolutely. Absolutely, that should be a no contest. I don't understand why in every single sport we can look at the replay and just overturn something or change the ruling for something, or even if you're not sure, go look at the replay for something and then at UFC, oh yeah, I guess not. Ridiculous that I lost money on here, and with a win like that, I couldn't even be happy that Chris Weidman got the win in front of his crowd because it was like, it was that bad of a win. It was that bad of a win, man. That was lock of the year. None of us have any idea. Like, I don't understand, man. I don't get it. This sport is officially impossible to predict. I can't believe I lost money on that fight. That was lock of the year. And that was a good call, okay? Aaron Blanchfield wasn't a good call, but this was a good call. Chris Weidman should have never won that fight. Crazy, man. But let's talk about Vicente Luque and Joaquin Buckley. Vicente Luque kind of did the same thing that Bruno Silva was doing. He walked forward and didn't do anything. He didn't do anything, and people are even talking about this fight being rigged. I personally don't believe the UFC rigs any fights. I really don't, but man, if there's ever an argument, it's for Vicente Luque, but I was worried about his body coming in. I was talking about that for a long time, and that's why I ended up throwing a little bit of money on Buckley, especially for underdog odds. He looked fast, he looked powerful, and there's not much to talk about the fight because Vicente Luque didn't do anything for 2 rounds and ended up getting finished. I don't know what to say about that, man. As for Joaquin Buckley, though, he did look fast, he did look powerful. I still don't think he would beat most of the top 10 in the welterweight division. I know a lot of people are wanting him to run it back with Kevin Holland. I think that's a great fight to have. And I hope he keeps improving. Like, I would love to see him become champion one day. But let's talk about the main event. Manon Fiorot, Aaron Blanchfield. Guys, this was a horrible call in my opinion. Horrible call by me. I thought Aaron Blanchfield would walk through her just like she's walked through most of her opponents. And I thought Manon Fiorot was aging. I thought she was overrated. I knew she was a good striker. But I really, really got worried once I saw them face off at the weigh-ins. I was like, whew, okay, that's a big size difference, and I was worried actually about the strength, but I still thought that Aaron Blanchfield would be good enough to walk forward. But little did I think that Aaron Blanchfield would walk into punches for 5 rounds. Man, where's the head movement? Why aren't you shooting for takedowns? The commentators were comparing it to Coley versus Leon. I get it. What's she doing? I understand that, like, this girl has a strength advantage, and I understand you got reverse ones, but, like, come on. That's your game. You're losing the striking for 5 rounds, and I was kind of blaming it wholeheartedly on Aaron Blanchfield, but her coaches were making it seem like the fight was close. I don't remember exactly what they said, but they said something to the extent of, oh, the scorecards are too tough to call. We need you to really move it this time. Not, hey, Aaron, you're getting 50-45. Time to go get a finish now. Do everything you possibly can. And she did look good. The heart was there. She was listening to their coaches when she was saying, like, Aaron, I need kicks. She is a very, very disciplined fighter, but you can't do the same thing for 5 rounds. She walked forward in 8 punches. Manon Fiorot looked great, though. She was using movement. She was using kicks. She was using everything that she needed to do to stop Aaron's forward momentum. And Aaron had the will to win, man, but it's just the same thing happened for 5 rounds, and I can't believe Aaron didn't adjust. You know? Crazy call by me. I thought that Aaron Blanchfield was on track to become champion, and you know what's crazier? I actually still think that Aaron Blanchfield will beat both Grasso and Shevchenko. I do. Just maybe that means Fiorot would just dominate them. I think the matchup was really bad. I think the size was an issue, and Manon Fiorot did it. Manon Fiorot did it, man. It was a bad call by me, and I'm willing to, of course, accept that one. Unlike the Bruno Silva call, I was shocked by that. I lost money on that fight. Crazy to me. Guys, let me know what you thought about the fights down below. Thank you so much for watching the video. Check out this video on screen right now. Already breaking down next week's card. We go through every single fight, and it's fantastic, guys. I will see you either there or in the next one, guys. Take care.